Chris Nineham. So Chris, you may have heard of, that he was on the Saturday demonstration and he was arrested by the police with what most people say was undue force and violence in a disgraceful display. I will pass it on. Chris is just going to basically come because he knows a lot of people want to hear from him, so I'm going to ask him to say his piece. Yeah, Chris.
Thanks very much.
Please stand up for us, Chris. Yeah, so we can see.
Thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me, and I can't say very much about the events on the weekend for reasons that are probably obvious to you all. I do want to say thank you for all your support and to the many people who have posted on social media, sent in messages, and particularly to the apparently hundreds of people who called up the police station and asked to speak to Chris Nineham while I was there, which actually meant that I was able to get 2 dinners and a couple of extra blankets, so that was useful. But I just wanted to say that was a fantastic film, and I think it was a very important film, and it showed the way that there is right across the board a kind of concerted effort to silence and undermine and marginalise and even criminalise the Palestine movement, and that's a very important message, and I think it shows that this is about more than an Israeli lobby. This is about the British establishment, the British government, the institutions at the top of British society colluding and participating in what is happening in the Middle East. I also just wanted to say that the support that the movement has received is very important to register as well. And I think one of the things that has characterised the movement really from the start has been the diversity and the breadth and the representativeness of the movement, however much they want to stereotype and caricature it. And the idea that these are hate marches, the Alice in Wonderland idea that people marching against genocide, against children being incinerated, against refugee camps being flattened, and against hospitals being destroyed are hate marches, I think has been massively weakened, really. And I think it's important also to register that partly because of the movement, we are not a marginalised minority, we are not on the edges of society. In fact, we represent the majority. And it is the case, as you know, that 75% of the British population in the last poll was calling for a ceasefire. The majority of people in this country support the Palestinians. And the problem we face is that, and actually only 6 or 7% of the British population believe that what Israelis is doing right. The problem we face is those 6 or 7% of the population are concentrated in the upper echelons of society, concentrated at the top of the institutions, concentrated in the political establishment, and that's the challenge that we face. So it's a time of danger, and you have to look across the Atlantic to see that authoritarianism and right-wing ideas are on the march. But we also do have a tremendously impressive movement here. There's a huge amount of anger against the political elites here. And also, I think, in this country, there's a tremendous historic tradition of support for the oppressed, of support for freedom of speech, and support for the right of protest. So this is a time of great danger, and it's a time of, we all know, great trauma, but it's also a time when I believe we have the potential to make progress and to achieve things. The right can only make progress if those of us who stand for peace and for justice and for solidarity are either passive or silent. And I think we all know this is a time when we're just going to have to stand up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. I should say that the showing of this film marks the beginning of the screenings of this film. And what we did a film in 2023 called Old Jeremy Corbyn, The Big Lie, and in that film, actually Alexei Sayle, who's here, provided the narration for that. And we showed that film in the Conway Hall at the beginning of its life. And at the time I said, the only way this film is going to be seen by more than the people in this hall is if you take it out and show it in your communities or wherever you are, and we will make it totally and utterly easy for you to show it as long as you can find a venue that's prepared to screen it. And tribute to the Genesis Cinema for putting this on, because a lot of cinemas wouldn't do it. The battle against censorship is the battle to get people to be able to see information, as the film itself says, but also it's our battle to get the cinema seen, because a film like this doesn't get mainstream media publicity. It doesn't, as many people still email us saying, why isn't this on the BBC? Well, funnily enough, there is a reason for that, but it can be shown in venues that are independent, even in community centres, anywhere you like, that has got a video projector, or you can put a video projector in, and it's got a room enough to have an audience. You get in touch with us. My email is norm6344@gmail.com. But also you can look up the Platform Films YouTube channel or Platform Films Facebook channel. Facebook page, you will find the information there. But get in touch with us and we will supply you with the film in whatever form you need it. So please do that. I'm going to ask Alexei Sayle now to take the stage. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. I've always supported Palestine because it's so good for my career. I think what I said in the film is just that they are fighting so hard to intimidate. The amount of earache you get if you say something about Israel is enormous. When I was on Desert Island Discs in 2021, I think it was, there was a Tory MP who tried to get it taken off the air before it was broadcast. Luckily for me, because I've been in show business so long and my views have been unchanged for so long, that there was a mass movement against it, and my Desert Island Discs went ahead, whatever that means. But it's, I just think it's shameful that, I understand in a sense why. I've had a long career and I have, my views have always been the same. I understand why young comedians don't. When you start out in your career, you are desperate to make a breakthrough, you're desperate to do well, and I can see why they allow themselves to be silenced. And I also think with several comedians, Paul Curry was the first, and then Reginald D. Hunter, I think, speaking to them, that their attacks on them, that these people in their audiences has profoundly traumatized them. My new series of Alexei Sayle's Imaginary Sandwich Mark goes out next month on Radio 4. It contains this joke. A letter came to my house the other day. It was addressed to the occupier, so I sent it to Israel. Assuming that goes out, we'll still, everybody in the Labour Party who laughed at that joke, by the way, will be in. It will be interesting to see. I hope that this will be a comedy series on Radio 4 that repeatedly mentions the word genocide. Will be a kind of a breakthrough in some kind of show business. I hope that if they allow the sandwich bar to go out, which I hope they will, then it will show there's still a bit of life, at least in BBC Radio 4 comedy. The rest of Radio 4 is, kind of the rest of the BBC, particularly the news and current affairs, is sadly a lost cause. But anyway, listen to my radio series. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lyndsey, would you like to go next? To pass the other. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
This is Lyndsey German, who is the convener of the Stop the War.
Thanks very much, Norman. And can I just say congratulations on the film to you and Chris and to all the other people who've played such an important role in putting it together. And I first knew Norman when he made a film about the Iraq War campaign, and that's a long time ago now. But we're still fighting. We're still here, and we're still fighting. And I just wanted to make a couple of very quick points. The first is that we should never forget that Israel could not do what it does without the complicity of the United States and without the complicity of our governments, and particularly a Labour government that we have now. We have Keir Starmer and David Lammy, who was in Israel only last week, travelled with the ambassador. I think one of the main things that we have to do is to try to hold that government to account and to try to change its policy, to stop harming Israel, to stop supporting Israel. We should break diplomatic links with Israel, and we should support the claim of war crimes against Netanyahu and against the Israeli government. So I think all of those are very important. Second thing I wanted to say was the way in which they are criminalising us. Many of you will have been on the demonstration on Saturday. You know what they do. They place more and more restrictions on you, at the behest of, this time, the Board of Jewish Deputies and all sorts of other politicians. They place more and more restrictions on you. When you don't accept the restrictions, then you're branded as a criminal. And I think one of the things we have to say, we are not going to be criminalised. We're not going to be stopped from demonstrating. We are not going to bow down to the people who tell us that we are in the wrong, because we are in solidarity with the Palestinians. It's one of the great causes of our times. My first demonstration I ever went on was against apartheid South Africa, and I'm very proud to have been on that, but I'm equally as proud to have been on the Palestine marches. And the final point I wanted to make is this, that we have a very long tradition of protest in this country. Women got the vote because of the suffragettes. We got trade union rights and democratic rights, or some democratic rights, because of the Chartists. We've had people demonstrating against the poll tax, against apartheid, against the Vietnam War, against all of these things. And we know with this government, with Trump in America, we are going to have to protest more and more. And as I said in the film, the best way of defending your rights is to stand up for them and to keep campaigning, to keep demonstrating, and to keep organising. So solidarity, everybody. Thanks very much.
Yeah, we've got three women who are mothers of people who are imprisoned for their actions in support of the Palestinian cause. And two of them you've already seen on the film, but one you haven't. And it's Emma Kamio, whose daughter is basically in prison at the moment. She actually came here on a day where she was visiting her daughter in prison. So, Emma, would you like to say something to us?
And congratulations on a great film. This is a new stage for me. I have been to see Ali today, and the whole prison system is a whole other story, but I actually wanted to quickly say that I was actually late to the table with Palestine, because 4 years ago I stopped supporting mainstream media. I gave up my TV license, and I put down my phone, and I was no longer on social media, or not the age demographic really to be there. I'd never heard of Palestine Action until August the 6th, when riot police entered my home and arrested me wrongly, led me away in handcuffs, and re-arrested me the next day under the Terrorism Act. There's a whole story to it, I'm sure you've seen it. But I disappeared from my family for 5 days, and I was somebody that wasn't on a protest, wasn't pushing those margins. I was completely innocent. They've taken 3 laptops, 3 telephones, my clothes, my jewellery, and they have never been seen since. I have spent, or my siblings have spent, many an hour, including myself, but you end up being so frustrated you have to let it go, trying to search where this stuff is. Now, I was told I wouldn't get my tech back, or my family's tech back, until the case, which isn't until November 25. But as for my clothes and my jewellery, I believe I should be allowed to have them back. But we have asked South Wales Police, Avon and Somerset Police, and Thames Valley Police, of which I passed through them all. And all you get, the final answer once you drum, is that it is no longer in police hands. And that can only be, I didn't come from it from a Palestinian place, but much of what was said in the film tonight, I was a nurse, I trained as a nurse a lifetime ago, but I trained as a homeopath 20 years ago, so I've been suppressed, vilified, laughed at, and ridiculed as a profession for 20 years, so none of this is really strange to me. I've watched how it's twisted. Sorry, I can't repeat that, it's come off the top of my head. I've trained as a nurse a lifetime ago, and 25 years ago I trained as a homeopath. So what I'm saying is that I'm used to being quietened, ridiculed, it's, where was I going with that? You interrupted me flow. I've lost it. Don't know where I was going, but what I wanted to say to finish up with is this bullshit ceasefire that's happened. I jump ahead. I've never heard of Palestine Action, but obviously now I have, and I'm there. I'm Welsh, I've got Welsh background, we've got a massive history. I've just spent the last week down in the bowels of West Wales where they still speak Welsh because they fought against the English repression all those years ago. And I learned so much about how much protesting the Welsh have done. And I also learned last week, during this last few months, I've learned to defend our juries are an organisation that are trying to let jurors know that they have the right to acquit according to conscience. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go and look it up. And if you know anybody that's on a jury, they need to know about it, because they are locking most of us up. But defend our juries, I learned from one of them that I met that there's a plaque on the Old Bailey which tells us about I thought it was the 1800s, but it's the 1600s, where there was a little story that happened, but that brass plaque tells us that the jury can acquit according to conscience. So when I was on my little road trip last week down West Wales, finding out about the history, I learned that that plaque was by somebody, K.C. Vaughan, who was from Cardiganshire, a Welshman. So it really fueled me, and I thought, we've got more to it. We've got more to us. I've been saying for a long time, there's more of us than them. The whole thing, this whole counter-terrorism thing is all about fear, and fear is in the mind. Fear comes from when we're watching what's happening here, and when it's all about fear. And love comes from the heart, and love is way more powerful. We've got to stick together, we've got to stand up. This whole bullshit ceasefire, it's not over, and we're only just getting started. And we need to keep rising up, pushing back, and saying no.
Sukaina, where you will have already seen on the film.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming in today to support Platform Films and the screening of Censoring Palestine. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Norman and Platform Films for making the film, for educating everyone on the truth that is now being censored, as the title rightly says. The Palestine Solidarity Movement has grown, as we have seen. It's a unique movement which has unified diverse people from all across the world. It's become a global movement, and we are proud to be part of that movement. And I would like to salute the students who have taken it upon their shoulders. We see encampments at universities, we see the students protesting, the students at universities holding their institutions to account for their complicity with ties to Israel. And it is this movement that leads in terms of the youth leading us. And I speak specifically in relation to the Filton 10, who are now, if you're not aware, have become the Filton 18. The number has increased drastically, nearly doubled. There's 18 people arrested for allegedly taking action and for dismantling weapons at Elbit Systems. This is horrific. It is unprecedented to see terrorism, anti-terror laws used against actionists. It is something that we all must speak up against and protest, because we do not want this to become a norm in the society that we live in. We should all unite and speak up. We have seen a lot of love and solidarity for the Filton 18. We have tried to campaign and raise awareness as much as we can. And I'd just like to share a few things for whoever is not aware of what's happened. 6 of them were arrested last year, August 2024. They were rearrested under the Counter-Terror Act. They were kept in solitary confinement, interrogated day and night for up to 6 days. They were charged with non-terror offenses, but it's been put forward to the courts that their action has, or their charges have a terror connection. Due to this, all of them have been treated as terrorists, and it is shameful that the young people of conscience, those that are trying to stop a genocide, have been treated as terrorists. In prison, their rights have been stripped. They've been subject to harsher conditions in prison, and some of them haven't received mail. Visits have been withheld, and the list just goes on. And to top it all off, their trial has been scheduled for November 2025. So this means that they're going to be sitting in prison, if not granted bail. They're going to be sitting in prison for 15 months before their trial even begins, before they're even convicted or found guilty of anything. And honestly, it is a shame. It is a shame. It is a stain on the British state. And we should all raise our voices and protest that. One last word. All our struggles are interconnected, or are all interlinked. The struggles of the Filton 18 it's directly interconnected to the struggle of Palestinians. And to stand with the Filton 18 is to stand with Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Claire, you will also have seen already. And she will be the last person to speak from the panel. Claire.
I think Sukaina and Emma said most of the things that I wanted to say, but I wanted to say thank you for an excellent film, and let's please try and get it screened all over this country. People need to see it. I just want to underline the pernicious use of the Terrorism Act. it is a really shocking part of the story, and we know that the state is showing everything that they can, as we've seen in these different ways, but the use of the Terrorism Act is just particularly vile, and it's impacting us viscerally as someone who's watched her daughter being led out of court for 15 months in prison before facing trial. It heartens me to think that people who supported fought against apartheid in South Africa in this country were also branded as terrorists. I feel like we're definitely on the right side of history, but it's something that we definitely need to oppose. My daughter's lawyer told me early on, he'd worked in this field for many, many years, and he said when the Terrorism Act was first introduced, he personally and other people rang alarm bells that the definition of terrorism was way too broad, way too vague, and was so totally open to abuse. And we are now seeing that abuse unfolding before our eyes. He took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court agreed that it was too general, it was open to abuse, and that the British courts should do something about it. Nothing changed, in fact. If anything, the legislation has made it easier to describe something as terrorism. This is something we all need to be aware of, we all need to fight. In March, the Filton 18 will face a hearing where the lawyers will decide that the prosecution will put to the courts that this case has a terrorism connection. It's already on their charge sheets that what they did in taking action against Albert Systems has a terrorism connection. So that's going to be decided. If it has been found to have a terrorism connection, and it will be very easy to argue that it does, because the definition of terrorism is so vague and broad, that will affect their sentencing significantly. It will affect the way they are seen by the judge, possibly the jury, the media. This is a pernicious use of our legislation that we cannot be silent about. It could add years to their sentencing if they are convicted. So I just want you to be aware, look out for this in the media. There is a petition you can sign. We are calling in that petition, it's already been signed by I think 37,000 people. We'd love to get it up to 50. I'm afraid you just have to Google Free the Filton 18 petition and try your chances. Also try Free the Filton 10. We are calling for three things. We're calling for them to all immediately be released on bail. There is absolutely no reason why these young people, none of whom had any previous convictions, many of whom are students, young women like my daughter, aged 21, there's no reason why they should not have been granted bail. That makes no sense. This is the terrorism connection. So we're calling for bail for all of them. We're calling for the terrorism connection and the counter-terrorist police involvement to be dropped immediately. And the third thing we're calling for is all foreign interference in the policing and prosecution to be exposed. Which it already has, by the way, because we know that there has been conversations between the Israeli ambassador and the UK CEO of Albert Systems calling for the prosecution of Palestine action. So please look out for those things, please sign the petition, and I just want to say, free the Filton 18. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've just been told we won't really have time for questions now, but hopefully we'll have another screening somewhere in London, somewhere else, somewhere in any part of the country that we can muster on, and we'll have questions there. What I should say is, from my own point of view, rather than we should have a petition that not only says is in support of those people who've been imprisoned totally unjustly, but also calling for the prosecution of Keir Starmer and his ministers who have actually been various unfolding information about their own about their total, not just complicity, but participation in the war crimes that we've already seen and that will probably come as well. So those people, there is a prima facie case for putting them on trial, and they should be put on trial, not young people who are protesting against what's going on. Thank you very much for coming.